In today's video, we're going to talk about the 3 things you need to make sure you're very aware of if you have a pension and over $1 million saved as you plan for retirement, or maybe you're already in retirement. And so that's what we have in store of today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement.
Joe knows taxes.
Joe knows the market.
Joe knows Social Security.
Joe knows income planning.
Joe knows pickleball? No.
This is Joe Knows Retirement.
So my name is Joe Schmitz. I'm the CEO and founder of Peak Retirement Planning, and we specialize in serving what we call the 2% of the U.S. population. And so that 2% are those with pensions. Only 20% of people have a pension, and those with $1 million or more. If you have $1 million or more, you're in the top 10% net worth in the entire country. If you combine those two percentages, you get 2% of the population. And so we get a lot of people that watch these videos and say, I feel like you were speaking just to me. And I go, well, do you have over $1 million? Do you have a pension? And the answer is typically yes. And so that's the crowd we talk about. We call them Midwestern millionaires, people who have lived a life of service. You know, they never made millions of dollars, but they were extremely hardworking. They've been frugal, which means they're better savers than spenders. And they've just done all the right things up until this point. And so I'm from a small rural community, and that's how I grew up, and those are the people we like to serve. So people we serve, I think about my parents, I think about my aunts and uncles, and it just makes it very meaningful. So if that's you, you will absolutely love these videos that we do here, and you can go ahead and subscribe to our channel to keep those coming to you. And we also have a book coming out here very soon called The Midwestern Millionaire that I talk about all these concepts in that book, so that may be another resource that you'll enjoy there as well. And also, if you're looking for the type of planning that we do, then you are able to schedule a time to work with our team. We have lots of people that reach out to us from this YouTube channel. We've been averaging over 50 people every week that reach out to us wanting to work with us from our YouTube channel. And obviously we can't serve everyone that reaches out, but we do our best to try to serve as many of those as we can. We do have a boutique type feel here, so we're not just trying to bring on everyone as a client. We'll only bring on clients if we know we can deliver the level of service to them. But if you would like to fill out the questionnaire there and see if we could be a good fit, then we'll schedule a call to get a better feel there, and then we would schedule another session to make a decision if everything adds up, from that questionnaire and from that call there. So just know that's an opportunity. If you are looking, if you're part of that 2%, you're looking for this type of help, that's what our firm is here for. And we've got a big team to serve this type of person. So we'd be glad to explore further if that's what you're looking for. And so let's get started with the 3 things that people with a pension and over $1 million need to understand. And the first one that I want to talk about today is what's called required minimum distributions. Now, this is also called RMDs. So a lot of people may not be familiar with this. Other people may have been very familiar with this, but if you're only 60 years old, or you're 65 years old, well, this may feel like a long time from now, because this isn't until the age of 73 or 75, and this is where the government forces you to take out money from those tax deferred vehicles. So you put in money to that 401k or that 403b or that TSP or that retirement account through your employer during your early years, and you got a tax savings on that money. So maybe you put in $10,000 and you didn't have to pay any taxes on that. So that's good news back then. But then this $10,000 grows to $100,000, and you go to take out $100,000, and now you have to pay taxes on that $100,000. So what this RMD is to start to force you to take out money so the government can get revenue with all this money that you haven't paid taxes on yet. And so, I always ask, is it a good thing when the government forces us to do something? Probably not. And so even if you're 60 years old or younger, or around that age, this is something you definitely want to plan for, because every year your investments are going to grow and grow and grow, and so is that required minimum distribution amount when you turn 73 or 75. And if you were born in 1960 or after, that's when 75 is your age of when you're required to take that out. And so, when you do get to those ages, you're required to take out about 4% from that investment. So if you have $1 million at that point, that's $40,000 that you're required to take out. If you're 60 years old, it's not outside the realm of possibility that your investment could double over the next 15 years. Probably more than that is typically what we would expect. And so now you have $2 million, and now your RMD is 4% of $2 million, which is $80,000. And so in that scenario, if you have a pension and you have Social Security and now you have this RMD, you're going to force yourself into typically really high tax brackets. Is why people with a pension with over $1 million need to be aware of this, because now they're going to force themselves to pay higher tax brackets than maybe even what they're paying now. And you've probably heard of that saying of, I'll be in a lower tax bracket in retirement. And now that may be true for the majority of the population, maybe for 90% of the population, But for the clients we work with a high income in retirement due to that pension and due to the high amount of savings that they have, they're not likely going to be in a lower tax bracket. Typically, they're in the same or even higher tax bracket in the future. And then there's other things that this RMD is going to force them to be worried about. They're probably going to have to pay the full amount of tax on their Social Security now. They're probably going to bump themselves to paying higher premiums for Medicare. So this one's an interesting one. So when you turn 63, that is the age that is used to determine what your 65 Medicare premium is. So Medicare is health insurance provided by the government. Part A is what you've paid into all your life. It's come out of your paycheck. There's no cost for that in retirement. You've already paid for it. Part B is an additional premium that you have to pay for, but that premium is based on your income. And so the higher income you have, the more you have to pay for Medicare. If you're lower income, you pay the lowest tier possible. Now, the reason why I don't love this concept is because if you've been this Midwestern millionaire, you've been this frugal and diligent saver, you're going to end up paying more for healthcare in retirement than the person who didn't do the right work and didn't save and wasn't frugal and didn't be diligent in their savings. And so because of that, you're going to be left paying more. And so there is ways around that. There's ways to plan to lower your income in retirement to make this RMD lesser. And we can talk about that on today's video as well. But just make sure you're very aware of the impacts that the RMD can have. And one of the other issues that this RMD forces on people is what's called that widow's penalty. And with the widow's penalty, that's when one of the spouse passes. And so we get a lot of people that come and work with us, one, to prepare for this widow's penalty, but two is to make sure their spouse has someone that's taking care of them if something happens to them. A lot of our clients we consider more of that DIY type personnel. They love going on to YouTube and watching videos and learning as much as they can. And they're attracted to our process because we go so deep into all the 5 pillars of retirement planning, but also they like that we are willing to educate them and be there with them to guide them through the process so they don't just feel blinded or they don't feel like it's a cookie cutter approach. They feel like it's very tailored and collaborative is what they really like. But they also like it for the fact that if they pass, then we can be there to serve their spouse who may not be as involved with the financials. Maybe that person just kind of took control and is making all the decisions. Well, if they pass, how is the other spouse going to be taking care of things moving forward? So that's something we see that a lot of people worry about, but especially from a widow's penalty standpoint, from a tax scenario and from an income scenario. So what happens when one spouse passes is, one from an income scenario is you're going to lose one of the Social Securities. So you typically have 2 Social Securities, but then you're going to only be able to keep one of the 2 if one passes. So you're going to have a loss of income. And then you also have to be aware of the pension that you have, of what survivorship options have on that. And so when you retire, you're typically able to elect what those are. And maybe you already are retired, you've already elected that. So you need to factor that in. Maybe you took 50%. Well, now your spouse is going to have more of a loss of income due to that. And if you're getting ready to make that decision, that's something that we specialize in with our clients. We actually have specific software that we built out ourselves to help our clients understand what they should do with that survivorship option. Should they take 100%? Would they be good with 50% so they can save some money? Should we get life insurance to supplement the pension, the survivorship option, or should we just get life insurance to protect all of it so that if something happens to both of the spouses, then this can be left to kids, or maybe one spouse passes away first, now you can take the cash value from the life. There's all these different things to think about in that scenario. But the key is how are you going to plan for that loss of income to make sure there's no gaps there? And that's something that a lot of our clients are confident about as they enter in that retirement and make those decisions. And then the other part of the widow's penalty is the tax side. So you go from married filing jointly to single tax brackets, which can cause you to pay nearly double the amount of taxes in that scenario. And so we typically, again, want to find ways to reduce this RMD so that spouse isn't left with $1 million plus in investments, and now they're forced to take out $40,000 at compressed tax brackets, and now those withdrawals are going to be at a much higher tax bracket than if we were to implement strategies now to take advantage of that. And so those are the ideas of all of the things that play together with this RMD and why it's such an important decision. And so the second thing I want to talk about on this video here that people with a pension over $1 million need to pay attention to is something called Roth conversions. And a Roth conversion can solve a lot of the things we just talked about. It takes some work to do. It takes some specific type of work to do to make sure you're optimizing that decision. But simply what a Roth conversion is you take money from a 401k, an IRA, a TSP, some type of retirement account that's tax deferred like we talked about earlier, and you simply move it over to a Roth account. Now, when you do this, if we move it from here to here, we have to pay taxes on it, because once it's over in the Roth, there's no longer any tax burden moving forward. And so let's say we have $100,000, we want to move $100,000 to the Roth. Well, we have to pay taxes on $100,000. Now the good news is once that $100,000 goes to the Roth, that $100,000 will grow tax-free. So let's say $100,000 grows to $200,000, and we go to take out $200,000. Well, you don't have to pay any more taxes at that point. You paid your taxes on $100,000. You don't have to pay it on $200,000. And so that's why that can be attractive, but especially for people in these scenarios, again, if you're expecting your tax brackets to be higher in the future or the same, what do you expect tax rates to do as well? Do you expect tax rates to go up or down in the future? Most expect tax rates are probably going to go up based on what we know historically and where we're at now. And so if that's the case, you've got a decision to make. Do I want to pay taxes now, or do I want to pay them later? And so a lot of our clients are considering Roth conversions right now. It's probably one of the most popular tax planning strategies out there that we're seeing for this crowd. And this gives them the opportunity to make that decision so that they're not forced when they get to RMD to have the government tell them how much to take out. Because if you have the money in a Roth, there is no required minimum distributions at that time. So that can be the power of this strategy of a Roth conversion. And again, those with pensions, you're always typically going to find yourself in higher brackets. And so having the ability of the Roth now gives you the flexibility of choosing which account you want to take out from. Do you want to take out from a tax-free investment or a taxable investment? And then you can determine what the tax rates are at that time, what your income at that time, to see and make that right decision. So again, with pensions, this is going to be more of an opportunistic opportunity, because you're typically always going to find yourself in higher brackets. And now this doesn't mean you should convert everything over to a Roth. Most of our clients do not do that. It's all about having more of a balance. So right now, most people have all their money in tax deferred, very little in tax free. We ultimately want to see people look to shift that so they have more of that, what we call tax diversification, as they plan their retirement there. So maybe something for you to consider. The first question is should we do a conversion or should we not? Most people with pensions, $1 million plus, I can tell you it probably makes sense to do something. I don't know your specific situation, but majority of our clients are looking to do at least something. May not be everything, like I said. May not be as little as 1,000, could be more than that, but you get the idea. The next question, though, is how do we optimize this decision? How much should we convert? And this is where a lot of people get confused and why a lot of people come to us for help, because they either go to their advisor and ask them, hey, I feel like I should do a Roth conversion. What do I do? And they say, well, we don't specialize in tax planning. You need to go see the CPA. And then you go see the CPA, and they just don't simply have the time to do this or the resources or understand your situation further enough to really give you in-depth decisions there. And if they do, they're going to charge you big dollars for it, because it takes a lot of time. I mean, with our clients, we typically spend 10 plus hours on the tax planning every year for each of our clients to ensure we're making the right decisions, running all the detailed reports, the analysis, because it's not just a one-time decision. This is how is this going to play out over the years to come is what we look for there. So just make sure you're being very diligent. You have the right software to make this decision. You simply can just go in and guess and say, I'm going to try to do 100,000, but just be very aware of how that's going to impact not only your Medicare premiums now, but in the future. So security tax now in the future, things like AMT or NIT or all these different taxes that maybe a little more hidden for those with a higher income that you need to be aware of. So just making sure you're making educated, informed decisions when you are doing Roth conversions, and then deciding where you're going to pay the taxes from as well. So a lot of small decisions that go into this. So just make sure you're doing your detailed research on that. If you're trying to do this on your own, we've got plenty of videos here on YouTube that try to go into depth as much as possible. But even for that, a lot of our clients basically say that they still wouldn't recommend they do it on their own. Just because they want to make sure they're making the right decision. They don't want to make mistakes, because they know, once they tell us all the time, once they're in retirement, they can't really get those mistakes back. So they'd rather have the peace of mind of doing it right. So totally up to you what you decide there. But if you are looking for further help, seek out team from a team like ours or someone who does this level of tax planning to help you make those decisions there. The third thing that we always tell people with a pension and $1 million or more is, what is your purpose with the money you have? And typically what that involves is go spend your money. A lot of our clients are the best savers, but the worst spenders. Remember, that's what that Midwestern Millionaire persona is all about. And so for them, they've saved for 40 years, and now they've gotten to a point where we call it financial freedom. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want, with whoever you want. And so if that's the case, what do you want that retirement to look like, knowing that financials is not really an issue? I mean, most of the time when we sit down with clients, we are encouraging them, spend more money or you're not going to be able to take this with you, or it's just going to be left to the kids, and you have to decide what to do. So we really try to simplify this into 3 things that can be done with your money at this point moving forward. You can either spend it, you can give it to a charity or an organization, or you can gift it to family, friends, or a loved one. But at the end of the day, that's about all you can do, or it's just going to be left when you pass to whoever it's going to be left to. And if your goal is to leave a bunch of money behind when you pass away, then this is probably fine. Maybe you don't want to spend your money now, right? Maybe you do want to be ultra generous while you're living, and you'd rather continue to be frugal so you can give and gift more. That's great. Whatever your purpose is, just go deliver on that. But when we sit in front of people and say, hey, you can spend X amount of dollars per year and still not run out of money, is the likelihood, they typically are like, well, I don't know what to do with it at this point, right? And so we always try to give people permission at this point to go enjoy it. You've worked so hard for this. It is a paradigm shift to switch it from thinking save, save, save to spend, 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 but just know it's realistic. Or maybe you give an extra $5,000, $10,000 to your charity that you love every year. And you just have to ask yourself, how does that make you feel? Does it make you feel fulfilled? Does it make you feel like you've got a greater purpose? And that's what this is all about. Money is a tool that you've obviously done a great job to accumulate up to this point to give you the amount of flexibility that you're looking for now. Now it's an obligation for you. It's actually a responsibility, right? Luke 12:48 says, to much is given, much is expected. And so from this standpoint, you now have a responsibility, and it's for you to decide what that is. And it shouldn't be a stressful decision. It should be an exciting decision of what you choose to do with what you saved over all these years. And we have clients that like to do all 3. They like to give more, they like to gift more, and they like to obviously spend more. Maybe that means more vacations. And even it can be a combination of gifting and spending, right? Maybe you go on a family vacation where you can share that experience and that bond with your family members that obviously no one will be able to take away from you. And maybe that gives them an opportunity to get away as well and spend that quality time together. So it's just a big thing that we have to tell this crowd, because again, high pension income, probably not going to be able to spend everything. And then when you have high amounts of investments, we're never going to be able to spend all that, is typically what we see. So hopefully that gives you some good perspective as you plan for retirement. And again, those are the 3 things that we would say are 3 of the most important things people with a pension over $1 million need to plan for. Required minimum distributions, looking into Roth conversions, and obviously looking at that purpose of what do you want to do with everything that you saved. So with that being said, again, my name is Joe Schmitz of Peak Retirement Planning. And if you like these videos, go ahead and subscribe, and you'll have these keep coming. We're one of the only advisors out there that talk about pensions on the YouTube. And so we're glad to deliver that content, especially to this unique crowd that we talk about. And feel free to share this with friends, and also put in the comments of what other pension topics or conversations would you like us to have on this YouTube channel so that we can deliver the best information to you. That's all I've got on today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement, and we'll see you on the next one.